I just want you to hold that image in mind. That no matter who you are, no matter what you're doing, you could be vacuuming, you could be whatever it is, but you are waging war because this is the battle zone. And when you are thinking about another person with whom you have a negative relationship, have any of you ever felt any jealousy? Yeah. All right. This is the energy. We have that kind of energy here. We have the energy of that you want to apply that kind of notion of jealousy, which is the hot, raging one, to what happens if your partner in relationship does this without your permission. Looks to the right, looks to the left. That kind of controlling energy is so incredibly terrifying. Because you realize instantly you're losing power. But that's one of the hardest kinds of energy to literally call back to you, because it shoots so fast and you don't want to call it back. Because you really want to hold on to the territory of that other person. Another part of our energy that we lose so quickly from the second chakra is to addictions. Now, addictions come in many forms. They're not just physical. We have emotional addictions. We have what we call supportive addictions to our personality, to our spiritual practice. But they're really addictions. They can be, in their shadow side, a way of controlling others. I've walked into many a household where people will say, take off your shoes, speak silently at this hour, I'm in meditation, da, da, da. But you sense immediately this really isn't in support of their spirituality. They're taking charge of the rules of the land. And you have to operate within those rules. I tend to say, excuse me, I'm out of here, because that kind of energy makes me very uncomfortable. You know, but that's exactly what's going on. On the other hand, let's talk about the positive side of this. The positive side of the second chakra is that you can empower people with it. You know, living in this planet, in a world where sexuality, money, relationships with other people mean a form of physical survival. It's very difficult to learn how to work with this energy on a generous basis. This is not the center of our body where we're accustomed to being generous. It is more often that we need to borrow from others a little bit of this energy because we're running out, because it's such an expensive chakra to maintain. This is not a cheap chakra center, okay? This is like your Neiman Marcus center, okay? Okay? And so when you are actually in a supportive relationship from the second chakra, you are capable of saying to another person, not pulling out money from your pocket and giving them $200 or something. It's more like holding the position of support that says, you know what, I believe you're going to make it. But you are actually kicking prana into that belief and transferring it to them. You're not just saying empty words. You're actually taking a part of your prana that engages contact with their energy system, so suddenly they feel an electric charge from the words you shared, whereas somebody else can say the same thing and it goes in one ear and out the other, as they say. Those people with whom you have that kind of relationship, either on the giving end or the supporting end, in terms of how they work with their physical power, how they feel about themselves physically, in terms of their sense of sexuality, in terms of learning to manage their control issues, and you're able to support them there, you engage a very beautiful capacity of the heart, which is the ability to merge that loving energy of the heart with that very primal energy, that primal survival energy of the second chakra. And you mix that two together, and you have a very forceful electricity, because you give someone a true sense of, it's more than faith in the universe. It is simultaneously faith in God and in the universe that's in us as God, that you can handle what's happening to you, not in your emotional life, but in your physical life. It gives you physical strength. So when you're losing power from your second chakra, you want to ask yourself these questions. Do I need to control anybody? If so, how much? And identify who that person is. But the best way to identify it is not to say, and to say the person by name particularly, like I need to control Tom or Mary or Sue or Billy. You're leaning over your second chakra, by the way. We got your vulnerable point. But rather that don't evaluate whether you're controlling the messenger in your life. See it symbolically. Because you ask yourself, am I controlling in personal relationships? Because what you begin to understand is whether this person was sitting opposite you or that person, you would be just as controlling. So it's not that particular person. It's rather, am I controlling in relationships in general? Or do I allow others to control me? If so, why? Do I have any addictions? How much? And how much of my energy do I pour into addictions? How much do they have control over me? Right? Addictions are an incredibly expensive energetic habit. Never mind what they do to you physically. Okay? What about your relationship to finances? Ask yourself, does money have power over me? Can I be controlled by money? Can I be bought? Okay? You've got to ask yourself these questions, because if you answer yes, and I'm sure nobody in this room will, but if you answer yes, what you have to realize is that in terms of healing, at an unconscious level, and maybe more unconscious than you'll ever realize, you'll associate healing with something you can buy versus something that you actually have to generate within yourself. Because you'll have a buy and sell mentality of power. So you really, and the other thing, I mean, you want to ask yourself, am I afraid to make money? Am I frightened of it? And here again, you're going to face a question of maturity, because you want to ask yourself, do I want to stay on an allowance on this planet? Or do I really want to manage myself at a more adult level and allow higher finances to come into my energy field? These are very powerful questions, and you have to dive deep sometimes, and sometimes you don't. I can't not tell you how many times in doing a reading with someone I've picked up, as I go into this energy, I've picked up a belief that they've had connected to. If I just make an allowance, then I am permitted to be more irresponsible than other people. What do I mean by an allowance? And I don't mean literally 50 cents a week. I'm talking about, shall we say, a social income, a societal income that we could call an allowance, because it allows you a very survival atmosphere in which to spend that money. You can't exactly flit over to Paris every weekend. But if you have that kind of relationship with money, it also says, I don't really have to be that responsible as an adult, and I don't actually have to be that responsible for my social choices or in relationships. And it gives me permission to be more dependent. And I like that. It gives you permission to be more like a damsel in a castle. Okay? It's got that tone to it. All right? Or for men, it comes across as what you might think of as the puer aeternus. The ability to remain the eternal boy. It's really dangerous when the eternal boy meets the damsel. That's a bad combination. Okay? So, you want to ask yourself, how much control does money, what role does money play with you, as well as sexuality? Are you comfortable with your sexuality? And nobody is, so don't be too quick to say yes, okay? But if you're not comfortable with it, what's the reason?